Today is Wednesday, December 20th. What to know about a historic court ruling that's keeping former President Trump off at least one state's ballot in 2024. Also, one of the most unproductive years in the history of Congress by the numbers. Plus, why there may soon be fewer pat-downs and bag inspections at airports. What was in the first video streamed from deep space? And how AI is making it so anyone can be a composer. Those stories and more news to know in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. We start today with a first-of-its-kind court ruling that essentially says not all Americans will be able to vote for the leading Republican candidate in the 2024 presidential race. The Colorado Supreme Court decided former President Trump is disqualified from holding office again because of his actions leading up to the January 6th Capitol riot. And with that, Colorado's Secretary of State is being told to keep Trump's name off the state's Republican primary ballots and to not count any write-in votes for him either. The state Supreme Court deemed Trump ineligible under a rarely used provision of the U.S. Constitution that restricts anyone who has taken part in, quote, insurrection or rebellion. Of course, Trump's lawyers fought against that, with several arguments in his defense. For example, they say the former president's speech to supporters on January 6th is protected by the First Amendment, that the specific provision in the Constitution does not apply to presidential races, and that only Congress is able to disqualify a candidate. Now, the Trump campaign says it plans to appeal. And with that, the U.S. Supreme Court is poised to consider Trump's eligibility. If the Supreme Court justices do decide to take this case, it will join a pile of other Trump-related matters they have to decide, like whether he should be immune from some of the criminal charges he's facing. So, to be continued. First year of the 118th Congress is coming to a close without a whole lot to show for it. A new analysis by the Bipartisan Policy Center says this year, the U.S. House has passed only 27 bills that have become law, even though House lawmakers were especially busy taking part in 724 votes. That's more voting and less lawmaking than at any other time in the last decade. And it's a big difference from 2022, when a lot of bills became law, like the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the first bipartisan gun safety bill in decades. Then in 2023, even the accomplishments have been seen as the bare minimum. The New York Times reports the numbers reflect the challenges in the Republican-led House. Since the GOP only has a tiny majority, Republicans need to be nearly unanimous to get anything done without compromising with Democrats. And deep divisions within the GOP and across the aisle mean either option is difficult. So what can we expect next year? Well, analysts predict more of the same, or things could even get less productive during an election year. It looks like another kink is being thrown into the nation's supply chain. This time, the issue is freight traffic trying to enter the U.S. from Mexico. 2 border crossings were shut down this week, so staff could be diverted to deal with another surge in migrant crossings that's overwhelming border communities. And that's a big deal for shippers, because those 2 crossings account for 36% of all rail traffic on the southern border. It's where tens of billions of dollars in goods cross each year. And the closure is also now causing some stress on other busy rail crossings. Shippers and railroad industry groups are now warning about a trade disruption impacting several different industries from car making to farming. And shippers say some goods may have to be destroyed. For now, there's no telling when the border crossings might reopen for trains. A coalition of American and European law enforcement agencies has disrupted one of the largest active ransomware operations on the planet. It uses malicious software to lock up computer networks and demand payment. The software was most famously tied to the cyber attacks against MGM Resorts and Caesars Entertainment earlier this year. It's also been deployed against American hospitals, local governments, manufacturing facilities, and more. And it's brought in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of ransom payments. Now, all of the online infrastructure tied to this operation has been taken down. And the FBI developed a decryption tool so all victims can free their computer systems from the malicious software. Many analysts call this a huge win for law enforcement. But others point out these kinds of takedowns are usually short-term solutions. Many of the cyber criminals thought to be behind the software are based in Russia, where it's nearly impossible to make arrests. And ransomware gangs are used to having to reinvent themselves. So it could be just a matter of time before the hackers get back at it in another way. Well, NASA has made history once again. This time, the space agency successfully streamed a video from 19 million miles away, and it was sent faster than most broadband internet connections here on Earth. It was an ultra-high-definition, 15-second video featuring a cat named Taters chasing a red laser pointer dot. Taters wasn't actually in deep space, though. The video was uploaded to a NASA spacecraft prior to its launch a few months ago as part of this experiment. It might sound a little silly, but NASA actually considers it a big breakthrough. The idea is for the same laser technology that beamed the Taters video to allow astronauts to send videos from the moon, Mars, and beyond. Much more news is still coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. Did you know Lumi is on the top of the most wished for list on Amazon for personal care products? If you haven't heard already, Lumi is a game-changing, whole-body deodorant that is clinically proven to block odor all day long, all thanks to its one-of-a-kind pH-optimized formula. They've got over 275,000 five-star reviews, and I would give them 5 stars as well. My old deodorant had stopped working for me, so I was thrilled and honestly pleasantly surprised when Lumi was so effective. In fact, Lumi is clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average person has an odor level of 6 out of 10. With Lumi, the average odor level is a 0 out of 10. Lumi Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes that I really like as well, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi Starter Pack with code NEWSWORTHY at LumiPodcast.com. That's LUME podcast.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit LumiPodcast.com and use the code NEWSWORTHY. Okay, now back to the news. You might already bag your own groceries, so why not do your own security check at the airport? At least that seems to be TSA's thought. It's getting ready to test out new self-screening technology. It's said to resemble a supermarket self-checkout, and with it, TSA pre-check passengers will be able to assume responsibilities typically handled by TSA officers, like checking IDs, inspecting carry-on bags, and doing a body scan. Some experts warn there could be a learning curve, though TSA agents will still be on hand to step in if they're needed. Another concern is cost, but TSA might have a little while to figure that out. The first self-screening technology will be available to the public at the Harry Reid International Airport in Las Vegas next month. A similar system is scheduled to be tested in 2025. And then, if all goes well, this kind of tech could roll out to locations all around the country. So remember last month we told you the FDA was investigating contaminated applesauce pouches made for toddlers? Well, the FDA collected samples at a facility in Ecuador linked with the pouches, and they turned up lead levels that were more than 2,000 times higher than the proposed standards. And because of these pouches, health authorities are now investigating more than 200 cases of lead poisonings so far, mostly in young children. And keep in mind, young children are especially vulnerable to developmental issues caused by lead poisoning. Plus, officials have struggled to get the impacted pouches off store shelves, even though they were first recalled back in October. The FDA says it's still, as of this week, getting reports of pouches being sold in Dollar Tree and Family Dollar stores. The CDC says if anyone in your house already ate any of those recalled pouches, a doctor will now have to test for lead in their blood, even if they're not showing any symptoms. So again, the impacted cinnamon-flavored applesauce pouches came from the brands Wanna-Banna, Weiss, and Shucks. And the manufacturer says it will reimburse customers up to $150 for lead tests. Meanwhile, the federal government is still investigating to figure out exactly what caused this issue. More than 100 million Android users in all 50 states are now owed money from Google. The tech giant is shelling out a total of $700 million to settle an antitrust lawsuit over fees it charges app developers. State attorneys general argued Google's monopoly power drove up the cost of apps downloaded in the Play Store. They also allege Google made billions in profits each year doing business this way. Now, to be eligible for a payout, you just have to have lived in the U.S. when you bought an app from Google's Play Store or made some kind of in-app purchase through Google Pay sometime between 2016 and September of this year. Each person will receive at least $2, but could get more based on their spending. Google also agreed to make it easier for Android users to directly download apps from developers without going through the Play Store. And already, Google started giving app developers the option to allow payment through a third-party system instead of having transactions automatically processed through the Play Store and its commission system. Artificial intelligence is making it so anyone can be a songwriter or composer. In the latest example of that, Microsoft's AI chatbot, Copilot, just rolled out a new plugin with an AI music startup called Suno. It lets you create an original song, complete with lyrics, instrumentals, and singing voices based on just 1 or 2 lines of text. So for example, you could say, create a folk song about Alaska summers, or make a soulful song about daily life from the perspective of a pet. You could even ask it to create a song in the style of your favorite artist. Suno will then generate your song. Copilot users just have to log in and enable the Suno plugin to try this out. And other big tech companies are experimenting with generative AI music tools as well. But not everyone is behind this whole idea, mostly because AI algorithms learn from existing music to produce similar effects. And not all artists are comfortable with that, especially if they don't give their consent and aren't compensated for it. But many AI companies say it's all fair if artists' works are public, even if they're copyrighted. Either way, it is a pretty uncharted legal territory. All these usage rights issues are getting hashed out in the courts now. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a break for our sponsor. I had heard about AG1 on other podcasts before, so I was intrigued. But when they sent me some to try, I realized how beneficial it is. It's now part of my morning routine. 1 scoop mixed with water, that's it. And I've really noticed it helps me feel energized. I also love that I don't need to take a million different pills each day. Just 1 daily scoop of AG1 covers my day's nutritional bases and supports my long-term gut health with 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food-sourced ingredients. I like to add ice and a splash of lemon juice to mine, and it's nice tasting. It's really easy to drink. I actually love that it makes hydrating first thing in the morning so much easier. AG1 was created in 2010 and has helped millions of mornings begin on a healthier foundation ever since. If you are looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. Summer internships can be critical for college students to jumpstart their careers, particularly in competitive industries like business. For sophomores who study accounting and finance, application deadlines are coming up soon for the summer. But we're not actually talking about summer 2024, but rather summer 2025. As the Wall Street Journal reports, accounting firms and investment banks are among those that started advertising this fall for internships about a year and a half out. So why the earlier deadline? Simply put, companies are trying to beat the competition. If deadlines are moved up, it gives them a better chance of securing talented students who can come aboard after finishing their junior years in college. But that also means college students who at this point have only taken 1 or 2 business classes are trying to prove they'll be ready for a competitive internship in 18 months. So colleges are now prepping students for internships earlier and hosting earlier recruiting events. But it could pay off. Career coaches say college students who get lucrative internships before their final years in college often land full-time offers after graduation. Well, thank you so much for joining us as part of your daily routine. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.